Greetings. My name is Chas Sexton Duranian, and I'm the current clerk to the Townsend Planning Board. I've been asked to provide the town with an informational video that outlines the warrant articles and bylaws that the Planning Board is putting forth at our next annual town meeting. This town meeting will be held at the Town Library parking lot, held on Saturday, May 8th, from 1 o'clock in the afternoon until we're complete. Because there are several planning board items that we need your vote for, and to make things easier for our residents, we have decided to make this video beforehand so that you have a good idea of what's going to be up for vote. The format of this presentation will allow for a better understanding of the rationale for these changes and the history leading up to these changes. We thought that having this informational session presented before the town meeting will allow for a better understanding of the bylaws and cut down on the comment time at the meeting. We will also have a printed handout that will be available for everyone on the day of the town meeting. All warrant articles and bylaws have been reviewed by town council and other applicable boards and committees. There have also been public hearings on all matters to gain input from the town. If you would like this handout beforehand, just email the planning office at planning@townsendma.gov and ask for us to email you a copy. If at that time anyone has any concerns or comments about this presentation, feel free to contact the planning office at Town Hall and ask for Beth, our incredible administrator. Her direct number is 978-597-1722. So I thank you for your time, and I hope this can be very informative for everyone. Chapter 43D, Expedited Permitting for Priority Developments. Despite not yet having an approved master plan, the Townsend Planning Board has been actively seeking the expertise of Montechusett Regional Planning Commission in finding available grants for projects that the Planning Board feels would be appropriate for Townsend. MRPC notified the Planning Board about a grant under Mass General Law Chapter 43D of August 2006 and amended in August of 2012 in Section 25 of Chapter 238. This law provides for expedited permitting to predetermined priority development sites that have been deemed feasible by the state's Interagency Permitting Board. Therefore, in a board meeting on January 16, 2020, the Planning Board unanimously agreed to take part in this grant opportunity as recommended by both MRPC and the Townsend Housing Authority. Chapter 43D provides for a transparent and efficient process for municipal permitting that is streamlined rather than a long, exhausting process of approvals through multiple town boards. A property is accepted as a priority development site by the state's permitting board in advance so that it is then guaranteed streamlined permitting within 180 days. This also increases visibility of our community within the state and further allows the town to specifically target future planned development sites. The benefits are priority consideration for the MassWorks Infrastructure Program grants, brownfields remediation assistance, and other financing through quasi-public organizations. It also allows for online marketing of priority sites and promotion of our pro-business regulatory climate with improved municipal planning and permitting efficiencies. We would also be allowed to collect special fees for priority development site permit applications. The Planning Board agreed this was a positive project for our community and agreed other boards and committees for site recommendations for these priority sites or other properties that should be included in this grant opportunity. Many options were expressed initially and had to be narrowed as the scope of work was refined. Once this master list was generated, the Planning Board worked with MRPC to create a matrix of criteria that the Commonwealth requires and narrowed the options down to 8 properties, then to 4. These properties had met all feasibility requirements and were then taken to the next step of asking the owners if they would be interested in including the properties in the process. The planning board is now recommending that this warrant article be passed by the town to allow for these sites to be declared as priority development sites with expedited local permitting by the Interagency Permitting Board for future development. In a Townsend Planning Board meeting held on April 5th, 2021, it was unanimously voted by the board that this recommendation and warrant article be brought forward to the town at the next annual town meeting. The article reads as follows: to see if the town will accept the provisions of Chapter 43D of the Mass General Laws as amended pursuant to Section 11 of Chapter 205 of the Acts of 2006, and to approve the filing of an application with the Interagency Permitting Board for the designation of land off Dudley Road, map 28, block 57, lot 0, and 66 Brookline Street, map 27, block 4, lot 0, and 222 Main Street, map 51, block 71, lot 0, and 365 Main Street, map 18, block 7, lot 0, as a priority development site, or take any other action in relation thereto. Age-restricted development bylaw change. We need a 2/3 vote for this particular bylaw change. The Townsend Planning Board was approached on June 24th, 2019 by a longtime resident in conjunction with a parcel of land that was acquired abutting the downtown district. This resident presented his desire to develop a small age-restricted housing cluster because of its convenient location to the downtown business district. This resident has been very active in developing both multi-use and affordable housing already in Townsend and wanted to hear what the planning board thought of his ideas. Noted in this discussion was the Commonwealth's urging to local communities to proactively adopt local regulations for housing of all types in response to the growing need for housing in general. It was also noted that Townsend does not have any regulations for any age-restricted housing developments, and this need was well received from the planning board. The chairman then delegated tasks and instructed the board to investigate what would be necessary for the board to develop an age-restricted bylaw to accommodate our aging population. Preliminary work was started to gather what other towns relevant to Townsend have age-restricted bylaws and how these bylaws are written. 21 town bylaws written for 55 and older and age-restricted housing ordinances were researched, discussed, and narrowed down to 5 possibilities that would translate to Townsend. The board then approached the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission to find available grants for this project, and a draft agreement was written. This DLTA grant was approved, and members worked on in collaboration with MRPC and other town boards to draft a bylaw that was then approved by town council and now is being presented here. After many hours of discussion, consideration, deliberation, and research, the current bylaw has been written and agreed upon. With the work of MRPC and the planning board, along with many hours of work in collaboration with other town boards, this bylaw is now in its final draft. Therefore, the planning board, in conjunction with the zoning board, housing authority, and several town residents, are now recommending that this new bylaw be passed by town vote to allow for age-restricted housing developments in the town of Townsend. In a Townsend Planning Board meeting held on February 22nd, 2021, it was unanimously voted by the board that this recommendation and warrant article be brought forward to the town at the next annual town meeting. The article reads as follows: to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws as follows. 1, by amending Article 9 entitled Special Provisions by adding a new section 145-54A entitled Age-Restricted Development as follows. Age-restricted development. A, the purpose. The purpose of this article is to provide for a variety of housing types, settings, and residential services to meet the needs of people as they age. Applicability. 1. In a residential aquifer district, RA, residential B district, RB, commercial district, C, neighborhood commercial district, NCD, downtown commercial district, DCD, or outlying commercial district, OCD, the planning board may grant a special permit for an age-restricted development in ordinance with this section 145-54A in any tract of land meeting the following requirements: 2 or more acres of land, minimum of 100 feet of frontage on a public way, and C, public water available at the street frontage. 2, an age-restricted development is intended for people age 55 or over. As such, buildings and site improvements on an age-restricted development shall provide for guest parking, public meeting areas, and universal design in ordinance with the provisions of this section. Basic requirements. 1. An age-restricted development shall comply with the following density regulations. Use: cottage dwelling or two-family dwellings, maximum density 4 units an acre, maximum building height is 32 feet. Townhouse dwellings, maximum density 8 units an acre, and maximum building height is 32 feet. Dwelling units can be attached, detached, or any combination of these type. 3. Buildings shall comply with a minimum setback of 20 feet from other structures in the development. For cottage dwellings, two-family dwellings, and townhouses, the minimum setback shall be 30 feet from all property lines in RA and RB districts, unless the planning board determines that a reduced setback is necessary to achieve the purposes of this section and will not have a detrimental impact on the neighborhood. 5. Nothing in this section shall preclude the planning board from reducing or waiving minimum setback requirements between buildings or internal lots created within the age-restricted development upon demonstration of the applicant of just cause. 6. No dwelling unit in an age-restricted development shall have more than 2 bedrooms. 7. The minimum common open space in the development shall be 30% of the lot area and not more than 25% of the required minimum common open space shall consist of wetlands. The upland open space shall be contiguous and usable by residents of the development. A permanent conservation restriction running to or enforceable by the town shall be recorded for the common open space area and shall include restrictions that the land be retained in perpetuity for conservation or passive recreation. 8. Minimum off-street parking requirements shall be: A, residential parking, 2 spaces per unit; B, guest parking, 1 space per 3 units. D, age-appropriate design. An age-restricted development shall be designed to provide housing options in a setting that encourages and supports aging in community. Units must be accompanied by common meeting areas, guest parking, and be designed for people as they age. At minimum, these terms mean that an age-restricted development shall have the following features. 1. Cottage, two-family, and townhouse units shall provide for: A, at least 1 zero-step entrance; B, doorways with a 36-inch clear passage space; C, master bedroom and an accessible ensuite bathroom located on the same floor as the kitchen, living room, and dining room, all being on the same floor as the zero-step entrance; D, master bedroom and ensuite bathroom designed and equipped for seniors and people with mobility impairments; and E, parking. 2. Outdoor facilities such as walkways, gardens, and recreation areas shall be designed for universal access. E, development standards. As part of the planning board's special permit review process, the board shall evaluate the proposed age-restricted development for conformance to the following minimum design standards. 1. Architectural planning and design shall incorporate energy-efficient design techniques such as natural heating and cooling systems, use of sun and wind energy generation systems, and so forth. 2. Structures located near the project property lines shall be designed and located in a manner that reflects consistency and compatibility with neighboring areas, and shall include appropriate use of building density, heights, and design to minimize any intrusion on neighbors. 3. Outdoor recreation or gathering areas, particularly those that may generate significant noise and/or light and glare, shall be located to minimize intrusion on neighboring properties. 4. Structures shall be clustered to reduce site disturbance and protect open spaces as well as naturally environmentally sensitive areas. 5. Building design shall avoid use of long, unbroken facades and shall include use of balconies, offset walls, trellises, and other design elements to provide visual interest. 6. Building design, colors, and materials shall generally correspond to the natural setting of the project site and to any prevalent design styles that may occur in neighborhoods within the general project area. 7. The developer has applied for and received a stormwater management permit from the planning board in ordinance with the town's general bylaw, subsection 85, MPDES Phase 2 Stormwater Management. Adequate provision will be made for the disposal of sewage, waste, and drainage in ordinance with the requirements of the Board of Health. F. Procedures. 1. The special permit application, public hearing, and decision procedures shall be in ordinance with the section 145-65 of this zoning bylaw. 2. The applicant shall submit an age-restricted development special permit application together with the size, form, number, and contents of the required plans and any supplemental information as required in the planning board's rules and regulations. G. Decision. The special permit may grant a special permit for an age-restricted development pursuant to and in ordinance with section 145-65F of the zoning bylaw, and upon a finding by the board that the age-restricted development meets the purposes, requirements, and development standards of this section 145-54A. H. Duration. Special permits granted under this section shall lapse in ordinance with section 145-65G of this zoning bylaw. By amending subsection 145-5 definitions to include the following new definitions in appropriate alphabetical order. Cottage dwelling. A detached one-family dwelling that does not exceed 1,800 square feet of livable floor area, meaning the heated floor area of the building above finished grade, excluding non-dwelling areas such as attic space or a garage. Dwelling, townhouse. A residential building of at least 3 but not more than 8 single-family dwelling units sharing at least one common or party or firewall, and with each building having at least one floor at ground level with a separate entrance. Dwelling, two-family. A detached residential building designed or intended or used exclusively as the residence of two families. A two-family dwelling shall not include a detached single-family dwelling with an accessory apartment, or to take any other action in relation thereto. Scenic roads bylaw. This will be a general bylaw. In an application brought before the planning board regarding a stone wall relocation on June 24th, 2019, the planning board fielded several questions from residents about stone wall removal and the Scenic Roads Act. Section 15C of Mass General Law states that upon recommendation or request of the Planning Board, Conservation Commission, or Historical Commission of any city or town, such city or town may designate any road in said city or town other than a numbered route or a state highway as a scenic road. With a passed bylaw, all roads within the boundaries of Townsend that are not a numbered route or a state highway were designated a scenic road. Therefore, almost every road in Townsend must conform with Mass General Law. As stated in this section, after a road has been designated as a scenic road, any repair, maintenance, reconstruction, or paving work done with respect thereto shall not involve or include the cutting or removal of trees or the tearing down or destruction of stone walls or portions thereof, except with the prior written consent of the planning board, or if there is no planning board, the selectmen of a town, or the city council of a city after a public hearing duly advertised twice in a newspaper of general circulation in the area as to the time, date, place, and purpose, the last publication to occur at least 7 days prior to such hearing. Provided, however, that when a public hearing must be held under the provisions of this section and under Section 3 of Chapter 87 prior to the cutting or removal of a tree, such hearing shall be consolidated into a single public hearing before the tree warden and the planning board. The town making said scenic road designation may make an ordinance or a bylaw establishing that a violation of this paragraph shall be punished by a fine not to exceed $300. After reviewing Townsend Scenic Roads bylaw, the removal or destruction of historic stone walls were never previously addressed in a manner that was understandable. Therefore, the planning board took on this monumental task of updating the town's bylaw to conform to today's standards and hopefully allow for a clearer picture of what the town is expecting regarding our historic shade trees and historic stone walls going forward. Townsend does pride itself on historic value and natural beauty, and being clear on the intrinsic value of our scenic roads without infringing on property right owners to privacy were held in very careful scrutiny. After many hours of deliberation with direction from the planning board chair, the planning board, in conjunction with the tree warden, town council, and several town residents, we are now recommending that this bylaw be passed. Scenic roads. A, purpose and authority. The purpose and intent of this bylaw is to protect the scenic quality and character of designated town roads. This bylaw is adopted under the authority of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 15C. B, designation. The town voted at the annual town meeting of April 23, 1974, to designate all roads of the town of Townsend, other than numbered routes or state highways, as scenic roads. C, application. Within the right-of-way of designated roads, the following activities acquired the filing of an application with the planning board and written approval of the planning board after a public hearing duly advertised pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 15C. 1, the tearing down, painting, or destruction of stone walls. 2, the cutting and or removal of trees. 3, repair, maintenance, reconstruction, or any paving work done with respect to a scenic road, including the construction of new or alteration of existing driveways, of such work directly or indirectly affects stone walls or trees within the right-of-way. D, public shade trees. Public shade trees whenever a public hearing is required before the planning board, hereunder, and also before the tree warden pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 87, in connection with the cutting, trimming, or removal of public shade trees, such hearings shall be consolidated before the tree warden and planning board. The consent of the planning board to a proposed action or activity shall not be regarded as inferring the consent of the tree warden, nor vice versa. E, fees. The filing fee for an application required under this bylaw is $150. The planning board may waive or reduce such fee when the applicant is the town of Townsend, when the project is pursued on behalf or is otherwise at the request of the town of Townsend, or when the project directly benefits the town. F, violation. A violation of this bylaw shall be punished by a fine of $100 per violation for the first offense, $200 per violation for the second offense, and $300 per violation for the third and each subsequent offense, pursuant to and in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 15C. G, enforcement. This bylaw shall be administered by the planning board, the building inspector, the tree warden, or others as may be designated by the planning board from time to time. Respectfully submitted by the Townsend Planning Board. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions in regards to any of the previous information, any comments, any concerns, you're more than welcome to call the planning board during normal business hours at 978-597-1722. You may also email planning@townsendma.gov. I want to thank you very much for your time. We want to call you to action to our town meeting that will be held on May 8th. It'll be at the Senior Center parking lot at 1 o'clock. We'll see you all at the town meeting. Thank you for your time.